What's up, Marvelites, and welcome back to another episode of the MCUExchange podcast. And just a trivia, guys, this is our anniversary episode.
Yay!
Hey, we've been doing this for a year now, and just, wow, thank you for everyone who's listening over at Spotify, YouTube, Anchor, Google Podcast, Breaker, and Apple Podcasts. And you know what, guys? The MCU is finally back after more than a year of absence. Yay!
Yes.
Finally.
Wandavision is back. And before we talk about that, my name is Aaron. I'll be your host for this episode. Alongside me is Charles.
What's up? Happy New Year!
Happy New Year. And Joe.
Hello, and Happy New Year from me, too.
Yes, Happy New Year, everyone. It's a great start for the Marvel Cinematic Universe here in this year 2021 because WandaVision is finally arrives on Disney Plus. Yay! First piece of MCU content after Spider-Man Far From Home back in 2019. It was more than a year ago. Crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah, but before we break down the doubleheader premiere of WandaVision, we're going to talk about a slew of MCU news in the next 15 minutes or so. Okay, let's go down to the rundown. First up is huge news. Really unexpected news. This news came out of nowhere because Deadline shared in a report that Chris Evans is expected to reprise the role of Captain America in the MCU in some form, quote unquote. You know, details about the actor's return are still vague, but the outlet pointed out that Evans will return as Steve Rogers in at least one Marvel property with a door open for a second film. Also, Deadline revealed that it's unlikely to be a new Captain America installment and more likely to be like what Robert Downey Jr. did after Iron Man 3. Because, you know, as you can remember, Downey appeared in films like Captain America Civil War and Spider-Man Homecoming after Iron Man 3.
Yes.
Charles, are you excited? Chris Evans finally back in the
It's-
MCU?
I'm excited to see him back return because it's always nice to see Chris Evans in that role. He made super popular. A role he made work. So it's nice to sort of see him be at least interested in returning to that role. Obviously, it's gonna be dependent on how he returns or even why he returns. I'm seeing a lot of people say that it could be like a secret invasion type of thing where he's actually a Skrull or maybe one of the Skrulls impersonates Chris Evans as Captain America. It's gonna depend on that, but right now I'm excited to see that. But I will say that it may undercut it. It's gonna make or break his ending with Endgame, depending on how they bring him back. If he's back as Old Man Steve, maybe he's in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Maybe he's there for one last scene. Maybe that's his return, and they just finally settled on that. This month to film like last minute reshoots. If that's something, if it's something like that, like passing on the torch similar to Endgame, then yeah, it's gonna work for sure. But if he's back, as Captain America, as a like they find a way to bring him back. He's young again. He's hot again. He's buff again. That might be weird. So that's where it gets, I guess, iffy for me. But just the base idea alone that he's back, it's cool. Also, I can't blame him for wanting more money.
After all. Joe, how about you? I have a different question because looking ahead in this ambitious phase 4 slate of the MCU, which property, aside from the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because that totally makes sense, which property do you want to see Evans as Steve Rogers again?
Ooh. Like, the bigger question is, where would he fit? Everything's going to be so insane. Like, the most grounded thing we have at the moment is Black Widow and Falcon the Winter Soldier. So those are, like, the shows you kind of would connect with him. We know he's voicing characters in the What If series. I really hope we find out that he recorded the zombie growls of the zombie Captain America, because that would be hilarious. But the thing is like, where would he fit? Now, if I'm a betting man, from the timing that this is coming out, I could see a what if scenario in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, because a lot of like with the passing of the torch and the passing of major characters like Iron Man and Captain America, we do lose a lot of story potential, and we're seeing them utilize like Iron Man stories with War Machine and Captain America storylines with Bucky and Sam. So I can kind of imagine like this being a last way to bring in quickly the Hydra Cap idea, the concepts, I think Secret Empire, I think it was called, and have like that storyline as like a short visit. Because the thing is, like, we don't know how many places Doctor Strange visits throughout his travel. If the film is 2 hours long, there's not that much options to go through to have like little storylines. But what I could see happening, and this is like best case scenario, we get him in Multiverse of Madness as like the Hydra version of Captain America, and that builds up to a Secret War crossover where he has a bigger role, and that's why they're like, because it's odd that they're only specifying a second film and not, just multiple films. So it feels like they're going to introduce him in a way that builds up to something. Hydra Cap works as a way that you don't have to explain why he's old and young again, because this is just a different version of the character, and they can build on that.
Charles, I'm circling back to you. I have one question before we move on to the next topic. Which is more likely for Chris Evans to return? Secret Invasion or Avengers 5?
If I mean, holy shit! I mean, if I were Marvel, I would save him for Avengers 5. Just save your best actor for your best movie, for your actual team up movie. Let these characters breathe in a world that isn't sort of defined by Captain America or Iron Man first. It's in many ways, like, as we know, Secret Invasion is sort of the big event for Captain Marvel and all these other things they're setting up. And I guess it's in many ways we know that some of the Avengers are gonna appear in Captain Marvel too, I think, or maybe in just like the Secret Invasion 3 movie arc. It's gonna be like this big mini Avengers movie, and I think that's the time where you showcase Falcon as Captain America, Carol Danvers as part of like the Avengers, all these people who weren't necessarily the main Avengers. This is their time to shine. So I don't think it's a good idea to shoehorn Chris Evans in Secret Invasion. I think if you want to bring him back for the big party. Have his big welcome return in the big party, and not this thing that's more important to the other characters.
Let's move on to another return of a Fox character, because Kevin Feige confirmed in an interview with Collider that Deadpool 3 is in development and it will be set in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The chief executive revealed that the third installment will be rated R and will be set in Marvel Cinematic Universe, with filming currently not planned this year. He described Ryan Reynolds as a force of nature, and I will read some of his quote here. He said, and I quote, "It will be rated R, and we are working on a script right now, and Ryan's overseeing a script right now. It will not be filming this year." And Ryan is a very busy, very successful actor. We got a number of things we have announced that we now have to make, but it's exciting for it to have big gun. Deadpool, MCU, great combination. Joe, are you excited with this news? Because it's finally happening. Deadpool in the MCU.
I'm a big Deadpool fan, so I'm really excited for this happening. I think Ryan Reynolds was a great casting choice. Besides the fact that it was referenced in the comics too, and he plays the character, and you see that he has, even however you feel like about Deadpool 1, Deadpool 2, there's a certain passion here from the people involved, especially Ryan Reynolds with the role, and there's so much potential with this character in the MCU. And at the same time, I kind of want to see how Kevin Feige can keep his one universe rule and then introduce a character who literally breaks the fourth wall, because that feels like a contradiction to what Kevin Feige tries to do with this streamlined one universe expanding. And then, Deadpool just shows up and goes, "Hey guys, I think I broke the camera." A lot of potential there. I think that Deadpool, they should avoid going too far with him though. And that's kind of the thing, is like that there should be boundaries of what he can and cannot do depending on where he is. And that's going to be like, this is for me the big trouble. This is not Deadpool MCU film. This is Deadpool 3 in the MCU.
Yes.
How does that work? How does it work as a sequel? I still believe that a lot of it is that's like for just a coincidence, the whole time travel gimmick at the end of the last film kind of gave them the perfect explanation of how he lands in whatever place he lands. Especially because it also kind of fits into the storyline being adapted right now with with Ant-Man 3 having Kang. So time travel, multi-dimensions, it all kind of works together. If it's a coincidence, holy hell, that worked out. I'm just surprised that Deadpool is getting an MCU focus. I'm surprised we're getting an R-rated Deadpool MCU film. because that opens up the question: is Blade going to be R-rated as well? Which makes sense for the character. But at the same time, what does that mean for Disney Plus? Because Disney Plus is a PG-13 streaming service, and only Europe is getting the Star expansion. So does it mean we'll see Star exclusive Marvel series that are R-rated, that are a bit more adult? It opens up, just even if you ignore the fact that it's Deadpool, it opens up a lot of potential for Disney moving forward on streaming, on their approach to the cinematic universe. It's going to be interesting. I'm really curious how they're going to handle this.
Yeah, and Ryan Reynolds, fan favorite. It's going to be a win-win for
Yep.
them. Charles, how about you? What do you think is the best option for Marvel? Do they need to wait before Deadpool making an appearance in the franchise? They had to wait for Deadpool 3 before that full-blown appearance? Or do you think it's smart for them to feature the character in a cameo role in some films in Phase 4 or even Phase 5?
I mean, currently, I guess the most obvious one is like the Multiverse of Madness, where you can literally just toss like a cameo, like the Watcher cameo of Stanley in Guardians. You can literally make a 5-second cameo where he just shows up, and then bam, you pretty much have his whole MCU appearance explained. No one gives a fuck because it's Deadpool. It's fun. It makes sense. You solved your biggest problem with Deadpool, and I think that's the way to go. Keep it simple. Don't overthink how you're gonna bring him in, especially a character like Deadpool. He's very fluid and flexible. There's so much you can do with how he adapts his I guess Fox attitude here in the MCU. I'm more interested in like how, like, assuming Deadpool 4 happens. Obviously, it's likely going to be rated R. I wonder if any MCU characters that cameo there is going to be given permission to say "fuck you" or "fuck this shit." I am curious how they're gonna approach that. How these crossovers are gonna merge with Deadpool's irreverent sensibility. Like if Spider-Man shows up in Deadpool 4, is he allowed to make dick jokes? Is he allowed to say "fuck you"? Is he allowed to do that? That's what I'm most curious about as far as how Deadpool is gonna work in this cinematic universe.
There's the reason why Captain America is returning, just to tell Deadpool language, so he turns PG-13.
Wouldn't be mad at that at all.
Chris Evans saying language, and then Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool saying "fuck you, Chris Evans." Not Steve Rogers saying "fuck you, Chris Evans" on the screen. Fourth wall moment.
Yeah.
Well, exciting times. Deadpool and the MCU finally confirmed, and can't wait to see it happen down the line. Next up on the list, we have a let's go over to the Disney Plus side of things before we move on to WandaVision, because we have a big Moon Knight news just yesterday. According to the Hollywood Reporter, Ethan Hawke has been cast as a lead villain. Opposite Hawkins acts Mark Spector in the Marvel Studios Moon Knight Disney Plus series. No details have been shared regarding the specific character Hawke will portray at the moment. Charles, Ethan Hawke, big-time actor in a Disney Plus series, Moon Knight. You see the strong connection there. Are you excited about this edition?
I'm excited because Ethan Hawke is finally in something that I passionately like, which is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm a huge Ethan Hawke fan. It's so crazy. He's one of those actors who's like who's been around for so long. He's like a '90s heartthrob icon. He's kind of like Leonardo DiCaprio in many ways because they're from that same batch of actors who grew up in like sort of in heartthrob movies, but then moved on to more serious stuff. And he's been around. He's always in good movies. He's always consistently in such great works. So the fact that he's finally dipping his toes in the superhero stuff, it's super exciting. I'm seeing a lot of people sort of guess on who he's gonna play. Obviously, the obvious one is Bushman, who is Moon Knight's nemesis. But I'm also seeing people say that he could be someone like Dracula, which I totally dig. I'm game for Ethan Hawke as a vampire because that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and also I saw theories on Twitter that he's Jack Russell, werewolf.
Ooh.
Oh
Yeah, I
yeah.
could see that. Yeah.
Yeah, you can cross over to the movies. That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
because there's a chance that he's the lead villain. He might die at the tail end of the season, and he's not going to be featured in the movies again. Who
That's true.
knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. Joe, how about you? Are you excited about Ethan Hawke's casting in Moon
Uh,
Knight?
yeah, I'm quite excited. Like my history with Ethan Hawke is, I ironically saw him in the film Before Sunrise, and generally the Before trilogy, which is fantastic. And they filmed that in Vienna, so I live in that city, so that's kind of a cool thing of knowing that actor, being around here and filming something here. And I think I agree with Charles. He's kind of been a name that's always around, that managed to do, what's unlike Hollywood. It's like he's never like the big star that just burns out
Yes.
fast. He's just always there. And this is a huge role for him. And I like the idea of him being Werewolf by Night. I mean, the thing is, like, if Jack Russell is the villain, like the thing is, we don't know how crazy Moon Knight is going to be. Just the fact that Moon Knight is going to have the werewolf, and like most people think about the whole, split personality aspect, like how crazy is that series going to end up being? I do wonder though, if, like, for example, they're introducing these supernatural characters with Blade, with Werewolf by Night, are they going a route towards the Howling Commandos? Like, not the one from the World War II, but the ones that consisted of like different supernatural creatures and beings, which I think would be kind of a cool idea. It kind of, for me, like, the excitement is if that's the fact, we could get Elsa Bloodstone down the line, which I think is a fantastic character to introduce. And just the fact that, like, Moon Knight has Oscar Isaac, it has Ethan Hawke in it, which are two actually big named actors. And I love the fact that the directors all seem to have a background. Like, one of the main directors is from Egypt. They're really going out with these shows, and I think that at this point, anything is possible. Any actor is possible, and there's no rule to what we understand of what streaming or television is, what an actor will or will not do. And getting Ethan Hawke, I think, is one of those big steps towards big movie stars showing up in more Disney streaming stuff, and we're seeing that trend with Apple Plus as well and Netflix. So lots happening, and it's really fascinating.
Yeah, and if he is playing Dracula, he could directly be the villain of Mahershala Ali's Blade in the movies.
Yeah.
That's
And they seem to be building up a lot, and like a lot more connections between shows. Like, whatever, we'll talk about later, like whatever WandaVision is setting up for a film as well. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. And all-star cast already for Moon Knight, guys. It's going to be crazy. And next up, let's go to another Disney Plus property here. We move to She-Hulk here because She-Hulk directors Kat Coiro and Anu Valia confirmed the minimum episode count of the series because she said that she's directing the pilot finale plus 4 other episodes, so that's like 6 already, and executive producing. And so She-Hulk will have at least 8 installments, 8 episodes, because Coiro is directing 6 episodes, while Valia is directing at least 2 episodes. 8. I think it's not yet final, because do you think that WandaVision will at least be 9 episodes? I mean, She-Hulk will at least be 9 episodes, similar to WandaVision?
I was just saying, like Kevin Feige said in the WandaVision junket, yeah, it's they're looking at 9 or 10 for, if it's a comedy 30-minute show like She-Hulk or like WandaVision, they're looking at 9 or 10. So it's pretty, it's a clear idea on how they want to approach these kinds of shows that have interesting subject matter. It's not like, the problem with the Netflix shows is that no matter what the property was, it had to be 13. Obviously, that resulted in like such shitty pacing. Very, very. It really had bad momentum. There were episodes that were like super slow, super dull, and it was the fact that they were forced to come up with 13 hours worth of story when the actual script called for like maybe 8 episodes. But here, it's nice to see Kevin Feige sort of, you know, ask what is only needed for each property. Falcon and the Winter Soldier needs 6. Moon Knight needs 6. WandaVision needs 9. She-Hulk maybe needs 9 or 10. It's such a good way to approach um, uh, making the shows.
And it's good that they have the freedom to set the number of episodes. Unlike Netflix, they have a format or a rule that they're going to follow.
Yes. Yeah.
Plus, it's up to you guys because we trust your storytelling, we trust your narrative. Go tell it the way you do because it's not going to be set at 6, not going to be set at 7, it's not going to be set at 8 like Wandavision. It has 9, but Paul Bettany teasing that the 3 final episodes will be like the MCU spectacle that we've all been expecting. So really experimenting on that format, and it's good that it's ever changing. Trying to find the quote where Kevin Feige said that. I can't find it. So
I think it's hold on. I think it's in Collider. Oh, here it's in Collider.
Yeah, it was in Collider. Yeah.
It's in Collider. He basically said, let me see. Here he said we're looking at it a little differently. We're developing it as either 6-hour episodes or 9 or 10 half-hour episodes. So it's kind of the same what Kat Corer was saying, that she's directing a few, and it's all gonna work out. Hopefully, it all ends up being good.
Yeah. Before we move on, I have a question for Joe because you're an expert at this, I think. But I mean, do you think that the strategy of Marvel, like not just Marvel, of Disney as a whole, that they're releasing episode weekly every week, do you think it's working? Because, or do you prefer that they drop it like Netflix series, like all of it at once? What do you think is the best option for them?
I wrote it. Yeah, I wrote an article about that not too long ago about the thing is that the binge watching that we're used to from Netflix was pretty much so if you look at trends in general, is we kind of recycle trends to a certain degree. So we went from standard television to binging as a reaction to say, I am flexible, I can decide when to watch something. But the thing is that over-consummation of TV shows, especially Netflix's market, has led to a certain degree of a burnout in a way. That's why now you see a lot of streaming services, Hulu kind of pioneered this, is that Netflix is also offering a television channel, like a channel that just runs shows so you don't have to choose what you want to watch. And we're seeing a counterpoint back towards the relevancy of weekly schedules. And the thing is, and why I think this is the funny thing is that Disney Plus is not the inventor of this concept. It is Hulu. Hulu pioneered. We're making Runaways was a weekly release back in the day, and they had they did what The Boys did: 3 episodes first week, and then every week another episode. And Disney Plus, for some reason, became the focal century point of it, because what the difference is that, let's talk about, Hulu, the biggest show on Hulu was The Handmaid's Tale. That was their defining show as a streaming platform. The Runaways was a big streamer, but it wasn't a big character that people were looking forward to. There's no hype around The Runaways besides the actual, target audience or fans of that show. It was a young audience show. The thing that makes Disney Plus and their weekly schedule so interesting is that Marvel and Star Wars, as they are now, is a very wide spectrum of target audiences that they can pretty much reach. And you see how that has affected the discussion around films. There's a reason why Amazon said, this is working, The Boys Season 2 is going to be a weekly release. Even with the controversy, it was still one of the most viewed shows because you're building up momentum for twists. You're everything now feels more relevant because you're not just watching through it. I noticed myself, by the time we got to, I'll say, Jessica Jones Season 2, besides Daredevil, which I think is still one of the stronger shows of the Netflix shows, definitely, it was hard to go through the shows because you kind of burn out on them by episode 10. And then once you kind of take a break from binge watching, it's really hard to get back into it. While a weekly release, you kind of watch the episode and you're like, oh, I really want to see more, but you kind of die out. And by the time you're getting back to, the episode's releasing tomorrow, that hype level goes back. So the discussion is coming back. And we're seeing that with WandaVision's approach, especially, where they're embracing, I don't want to say they're embracing Lost culture in a way, how Lost built up its hype. And I always say, I think weekly releases is going to redefine the streaming markets, though I will say Netflix will stick by show-to-show basis to their binge shows. like animation, you have reality TV, that kind of stuff you can binge watch because a lot like they're shorter, they're very easy to consume. Pop culture with Easter eggs galore, with this, the discussion around it is much more complex and difficult. That the weekly release helps people like the make the Easter egg videos. Now imagine you have to do an Easter egg article or video for 13 episodes, and everyone already by the time you hit episode 10, get that stuff out, the hype is just gone because people already binged it in the first weekend. So it changes a lot and helps them kind of also spread out the content so you don't saturate the market too fast. And now I went on a really long tangent, sorry.
And I think the main difference here because is Disney Plus only had a limited amount of originals. Unlike Netflix, there's a lot of content. They have a lot of content. Like they have new movies every week. They have this new trailer when they release it. Every new movie every week, and then different shows like every other week. It's crazy, and whatever it is, people are gonna watch it. People are gonna consume it. They're just gonna choose how are they going to watch it. Let's now move on to another Disney Plus show that is just going to premiere in May. It's Loki, because in the report from Deadline about Michael Waldron, the writer of Loki, working on Kevin Feige's Star Wars movie, the outlet mentioned that Waldron would be involved in a second season of Marvel Studios' Loki Disney Plus series in some capacity. It somewhat confirms that Loki has a season 2. Okay. Charles, I know that Charles Murphy reported this a year ago, that he mentioned that it's 100% certain that the second season of Loki would happen, and now it's reported by a big trade. Do you think that this somehow spoils the season 1 of Loki, or do you think it's okay to be confirmed right at this point? Because there are many story possibilities now.
Yeah, it's gonna depend on where they want to take the season 2 of Loki. Like when Charles Murphy reported this last year, it was weird because we haven't seen any of the Disney Plus shows. Marvel doesn't know how successful the Disney Plus shows are gonna be, but from the get go, they immediately had plans for the next season. I guess in many ways that shows how confident they are in what they're doing, and certainly the trailer when we saw that from the Disney Investors Day meeting, it looks super fucking sick. So I guess they maybe it's like a convincing argument that yeah, season 2 is definitely something that you need to all see. Obviously, it's gonna depend on what the gimmick is gonna be, because right now the gimmick is gonna be this is Endgame Loki. He's time traveling and jumping all to different types of realities, and that's that. I don't know how interesting that would be if it's exactly the same premise for season 2. Like it's season 2 is just him like jumping around through time again, messing people's lives up. It's gonna be just like a rehash of the season 1. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they do it. As far as we know, none of the other um shows have season 2. I don't think there's gonna be WandaVision season 2. I don't think there's gonna be Falcon and the Winter Soldier season 2. So it is interesting that Loki gets the season 2 out of all properties.
Yeah, because there's a lot of storytelling possibilities. And Joe, I have a question before we move on to WandaVision. Last question. Do you think that before we get Loki season 2, do you think that he will appear in at least one feature film, maybe Thor: Love and Thunder or Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness?
That's a good question. I think we will see him definitely. So the thing is that like the advantage that let's say Marvel has over Star Wars with the seasonal aspect is that Star Wars is more dependent because they don't have that many shows as of now. But we're already seeing a trend of them saying, okay, we did 2 seasons of Mandalorian. Now we're taking a short break with Boba Fett, and then we're coming back with Mandalorian. And that's kind of like the overall strategy that I believe that Marvel's going for. Is like if they say Loki's going to have a season 2, that does not mean we're getting season 2 next year. That does not mean we're getting it in 2 years. That means when the time is right and the story concept they have, that is when the season will air. And it gives them way more flexibility to work with these seasonal aspects and make them connect in interesting ways. The only challenge I see is that, the more seasons they add on, the more complex it becomes. Because if someone, going back to the binge watching, if I sit down and I say, I just want to watch Loki, season 1 and season 2 are not really connected besides the main players. Let's say the TVA is certainly going to stay. That's where it can kind of get a little confusing. But like, they can rename it. They can just call it a different show. It's season 2 Loki, but it's just called TVA. They're not restricted like NCIS is or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was. They don't make a season 2 and have to directly follow up in some way. They can make a season. They can rename it if they want to. All the flexibility is in their hands. And we will see how they'll handle it in the future. But it certainly seems like they're not restricted in any way.
Or they can name it Loki, the Book of Can.
Yeah,
Book of Can.
that could work. Yeah.
The Book of Boba Fett. But let's like that, because there's many potential, many spin-offs from that can sprung off from Loki. It's crazy. And now
the
let's
Book of
move on.
Owen Wilson. Oh wow.
Oh wow! Oh yeah, the Book of Wow.
Wow, wow,
Wow. Are you saying that's true? Wow.
wow.
Yeah. Now let's now move on to actual MCU content. We're gonna talk about actual MCU content after a year. It's
Woo!
crazy. Woo! WandaVision kicks off the ambitious Phase 4 slate of the MCU because 2021 is poised to become a banner year for the Marvel Studios. A lot of shows right now. It starts with WandaVision. Like, guys, every week there's new MCU content. Crazy. Starting this week or last week. It's Legends.
Finally.
And now we find ourselves in Westview. Do you see?
Yes.
Yes. After serving as side characters in Avengers films, Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany returns as Wanda and Vision in WandaVision. What I'm surprised about is that the WandaVision didn't waste time in establishing that this is a sitcom because it has no explanation. It went straight to a sitcom approach, sitcom strategy. It's wow. It's like it's hard to break it down because there's a lot. It's gonna
Yes.
do favorite moments, favorite moment type. Talk about our favorite moments for the listeners. What we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about our favorite moments and then our areas of opportunities or the negatives in the show. I'm gonna speculate what happens in the ending of episode 2 or the rest. There's a lot of Easter eggs. We're gonna break it down. We're gonna be finished by tomorrow if because there's a lot of Easter eggs in this in those doubleheader premiere. Let's move on. First, I'm gonna start. My favorite moment is the opening sequence, opening theme whenever an episode starts. Because in episode 1, they have a theme song. It's so cool. The 50s
Yeah.
inspired Bewitch inspired theme song for both episode 1 and 2. I think that's my favorite. It's the one. It's refreshing. It's unique. It's one of a kind. It's never been done before. It's a bold risk. And Kevin Feige, you nailed it again. Charles, favorite moments from the episode.
Ooh, wait, it's so hard because, like you said, the first 2 episodes are so packed with so many things to dissect. From the
Yes.
Easter eggs, from the commercials they put in, it's super super layered. But I guess my favorite part of the episode is just seeing how they managed to make the premise work. I don't have like a particular number one favorite moment, um, but just how everything comes together. How it's kind of actually funny is the first episode where Wanda's trying to make dinner and Vision's trying to distract his boss through playing guitar. That was just so fucking like. Can you imagine? Like 3 years ago, they were fighting Thanos. Now Wanda's trying to make dinner, and Vision's trying to sing a song. He's singing Old MacDonald. It's so crazy how far they've taken these characters, and they actually make it work. Episode 2 with the talent show, it was super super fun to watch them see sort of flub, the magic tricks they were preparing for. Vision was drunk. I like how they depicted like that the bubblegum thing through like cartoons in his chest. That was such a great touch. There's just so much to take in here, but I guess my general favorite thing here for both of the episodes was just how surprising it was and how they managed to make it work.
Yeah, and the best part about it is the back and forth between Olsen and Bethany. They're like experts in sitcoms now. So interaction dynamic, the character moments. This is what makes WandaVision fun. The lead stars, because they have chemistry. They've been working for a while now, and when you put it in an unusual format, but they managed to make it work. That's a great thing about it. Joe, how about you? What's your favorite moment or moments in WandaVision?
There's so much to choose from. I think for me is the first time the show cracked. So the stop it moment probably sticks in my mind the most because it's the whole concept, and I kind of adore, like, all of us kind of thought, okay, it's going to be an action show with those elements from the old sitcom shows, but in reality it's the other way around. It's a sitcom show first and foremost with mystery sprinkled throughout, where like that Lost effect I talked about comes in, and the moment, like, Deborah Jo Rupp, who is always an amazing and joy to watch, starts going, stop it, stop it. It just echoes in my mind. And it made me go, I have to rewatch these episodes multiple times as the show continues to go on. Because I think there's so much we're missing by not knowing the full context yet.
And it's part of it because it's a sitcom, it's comedy, but deep within, it's scary because you know that something's not right. Like everything's not what it seems because uh this is really an alternate reality, and I can't wait on how I'm going to explain it because let's now move on to before we move on to the ending. That's going to be our favorite part. What do you think is the area of opportunities that WandaVision lacks? Because for us Marvel fans, for us who's keeping tabs with the MCU for a while now, we appreciate these moments. We appreciate this risk. But for a casual fan who just managed to, okay, it's Marvel, let me watch it. Some I saw on Twitter that some are bored because, oh, what's this? It's new. Of course you can get bored. It's the first episode. Come on, it's a build up because they're not like that invested enough to watch that. Charles, how about you? Do you think that uh having it as a sitcom is disadvantageous to those fans who are not really invested with the characters, stuff like that? Or
I think there's a pro and con to it being the way it is. The pro
Yeah.
is because it's a sitcom. Wanda and Vision kind of do their own silly adventures in each episode. Like the dinner party from episode one does not carry on to episode two. Episode two is them doing the magic, so it's completely different. You can sort of enjoy these things in their own episode. And I've seen the third episode. I can't talk about it that much, but episode three is gonna be it's kind of like the same way. You can watch it on its own. It's they're facing their own problems. They have their own adventure in episode three, and I guess that's the advantage of it being a sitcom. They can have fun and not worry about the larger world building. That being said, I think there's a bit of an inaccessibility to WandaVision. Like I don't think a fan who hasn't seen any of the movies is gonna fully appreciate what exactly is going on with WandaVision. They might enjoy the silliness of it all, it being in the 50s, in the 60s, the 70s, 80s, and 90s. That might be something that would, I guess, attract them. But as far as the commercials, the Stark toaster, the Strucker watch, that's something they're not gonna understand. They're also not gonna understand why is there a beekeeper coming out of the sewer? Why is there a colored helicopter in Wanda's, garden? That's something they're not gonna understand. It's not some. It's something they won't exactly grasp, and that might be detrimental to what WandaVision is doing. I remember Kevin Feige saying that, yeah, WandaVision you can watch it without watching Endgame. It's not really the case. You're only gonna pick up so little things, and the drops that happen in the end, like when we see, at the end of episode one, when we see that, oh shit, they're actually being watched. The WandaVision show is actually being watched by Sword in the I guess credit scene in episode one. I don't think non fans are gonna pick up on that. They're gonna be like,
Mm.
oh, what is that? What does that mean? Oh, what does the beekeeper mean? What does how can Wanda why does it seem like she can rewind the episode as much as she wants? That's something that's gonna go over their heads and sort of take them out of the experience. But I guess that's sort of expected because we're so knee deep into the cinematic universe, and the deeper and deeper we get with this show and with other properties, Multiverse of Madness and whatnot, the more inaccessible it's gonna be. And fortunately, the MCU has amassed an audience that kind of understands everything, so they don't have to worry about audiences dropping off because they can't understand shit. But as far as gaining new fans midway, you know, it's gonna be hard. So fans have a lot to catch up to if they wanna even grasp the depth of WandaVision.
Yeah, and for casual fans, you know what's funny? They don't even know that it's Sword because it's
Yeah,
not yet
Mhm.
revealed. Only us know because we've been covering it for quite some time now. The main difference is here is Mandalorian. I mean, story. Um, I'm not really a fan of the Mandalorian ever since when it started back in 2019 because it's confusing. Like, okay, there's Baby Yoda. That's what hooked fans because of Baby Yoda. So I think some fans are finding a Baby Yoda type plot point or Easter egg that can hook them. It's not going to happen here because it's the MCU because it's already an established connection of stories. And the one good thing about Marvel Studios that I always commend them because in the movies they explain it so well even to a casual fan because they only have 2 hours to do it. But here I think they're taking time to explain everything because that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of mystery. And you have Wanda as the lead character, who's just banking on mysteries. It works for us fans, not for casual fans. Joe,
I'm
how about your
uh,
thoughts?
I'm gonna
Vision.
be devil's advocate here. I do not agree on that. I actually think that the show's approach can work extremely well for new fans. But
Mm,
what I do agree on, and I think that's a big conjecture with the existence of WandaVision, is we haven't had content from Marvel in over a year. And originally, WandaVision was going to be capped off with Black Widow, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and Eternal. So, like, 3 properties were going to air before WandaVision ever was on Disney Plus. 2 of them probably closer to what we expect from a Marvel property, action, comedy. Now, the thing is that if you throw in WandaVision after something we're familiar with, it feels fresh and new, and it has a much stronger standing. Now, though, we haven't had content since Spider-Man Far From Home in July 2019.
wow.
And we're welcomed by a show that is nothing we recognize as fans. It is a sitcom, and it's a slow burn. This isn't. Netflix had pacing issues because it had 13 episodes and it dragged it out over 40 minutes to 50 minutes. This is a slow burn because the first episode does not give you a real tease of what's happening. All it does is tell you something's off.
yeah,
And the second episode is really saying something is really off. But it's not like Daredevil, where the first episode ends with, "Oh no, this and this happened, and what does this mean for my future?" It just ends with, "The fuck was that? What the fuck was that?" And the reason I believe it works for casual audiences, and this may sound, and I don't know why this reference is coming full circle now, that is why I think Lost was successful. Lost made no goddamn sense for a long time. And the thing is, people just came to accept that there was a dark, mystic cloud on an island randomly killing people. And we're worried about people being a little confused about something going off in a sitcom show. And I
mm,
think I think the mystery that they're setting up is really interesting for new audiences that, like I watching WandaVision, I personally felt like if I haven't watched Endgame, I wouldn't know Vision is dead. I would just think that this is a sitcom with 2 supernatural people. And the mystery at the end are, a robot and a witch. And the mystery at the end goes, there's more to this story. That like the distinctive way the camera pans out was for me a reminder of Lost with the reveal of the bunker. That's how it kind of felt like. And the thing is that the mystery that's set up here, if they do it right, can really get people hooked. And I think to some degree, we're only left in morbid curiosity. And if the next episode, which I think is going to be like a changing point, I haven't seen it, but I think that's going to be a changing point where we go in. Unlike Mandalorian, which pretty much ended its first episode with the big selling point. And a lot of people complained at the time, and even in season 2, that the show didn't really have it was just goes to planet, does this, does that, and it felt like a little aimless until the end. WandaVision is like the counterpoint to that, where it's like where it feels aimless, but there's actually a through line going through. And it's not until the reveals at the end or in the future that really bring it together. What we as fans get, or our trouble in our position, is we kind of have a knowledge of, we knew before the show aired something was wrong.
Yeah.
We knew that there was something going on. And as fans of Endgame, we knew Vision is dead. Now, if someone's new and they watch this, like, oh, this is a really cute tribute to like the Dick Van Dyke Show, and then watch that ending, you're going like, the fuck was that? Wait. Oh, there's a second episode? We have to see, what is that? And the second episode does more of it. And I think each episode will do more and more as it breaks that reality more frequently as the show goes on. And that's kind of how it does the same effect that Lost did, where just every episode started getting crazier and crazier. The advantage is they're doing it in 9 episodes, while Lost did in 22 over 6 seasons. And of course, at one point, they couldn't solve every problem they created, while this show feels more condensed, but at the same time has a unique standing. And that's why I think that casual audiences can really get into the show without having ever seen Avengers Endgame. But where I do agree with you guys is it's not going to sell new people to Disney Plus, for example. It's not going to sell people in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I think it can work as its own thing in that regard.
I'll also say that because I guess as an audience we've grown from, we're certainly not like, if we time travel to the 50s and watch the Dick Van Dyke Show or whatnot with our modern sensibility, it's not gonna be as effective as it is to people from that era. So I think part of people getting bored with, that's kind of boring, there's nothing happening. To me, it's not, because I appreciate what's happening on screen. I appreciate seeing the 50s. Oh, this is how it was. This is how the comedy was before. This is what the social sensibility was in the 50s. I'm fascinated with that. But to people who aren't sort of accustomed to seeing, watching black and white, old school vintage stuff, this might be like, oh, it's not my taste because I'm not from that era. That, I think that's a big part of some people saying it's boring and whatnot. It certainly isn't. But for people whose tastes aren't, I guess, as, I mean, I don't, it's gonna sound super snobby, but for people whose tastes aren't just as refined as ours, as where we watch so much stuff, we watch movies of all kinds and whatnot, no matter where it's from. Obviously, we have a bigger appreciation for stuff like this, and I think a portion of the general audience who want to tune into whatever the next Marvel offering is, they're kind of like, holy shit, what is this? There's nothing. Like, the end is just like a silly twist, and episode two's twist is kind of like, okay, but I'm not getting the full Marvel experience. And I think this is one of those shows where I 100% guarantee this, once it's complete, once we see all 9 episodes, the first 6 episodes are gonna be completely different when you watch it again. It's gonna be like, holy shit, that's why the stop it happened. Stop it, stop it, stop it. That's why that was sort of happening. That's why Agnes made that sort of joke about the devil's in the details. That's why. Oh my god. Now these first 6 episodes are one of the most amazing stuff I've ever seen. Right now it's kind of like, let's see where this happens. But for sure, this is one of those shows where, once it's over, every episode's gonna feel completely different when you watch it again.
Definitely.
Let's get back to this after 2 months.
Yes.
Fans after 2 months, and then, oh, told you so. It's gonna be good. Because they need these reveals. They need this Easter eggs because it is going to build up to something bigger at March, right? It's gonna be crazy.
Mhm.
Let's now move on to uh before we move on to the ending. Let's talk about the commercials, guys. I
Yeah.
was surprised that it has commercials within the episode, and I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's the representation of Wanda's trauma in
Yeah.
the past. Yeah, because I don't know personally who the two persons are in that commercial. Some are saying that it's Wanda's parents, but I doubt that.
Yeah.
Charles, what do you think about those commercials? Do you think that it works? And what are your theories about that?
Oh yeah, I
Strucker,
mean, it's absolutely
toast.
amazing. I didn't actually think much of them until everyone started theorizing. Holy shit, the Stark thing. Yeah, that might be a representation of the bomb because yeah, the toaster kind of goes off in a delayed manner, and it was weird that it lingered a bit. And I remember in Age of Ultron, that's what happened to PH and Wanda. A Stark bomb hit their house, and the worst thing about it was that it didn't even explode right away. They had to wait and sort of wonder if they were gonna die at any moment.
No.
And that's emblematic of the toaster commercial with in the episode one, and obviously in episode two you got Strucker who is responsible for giving their powers. And yeah, I'm pretty much convinced that yeah these commercials are representative of um of the Wanda's trauma.
Hmm.
I'm sort of interested in the theory that they're actually her parents in the commercial because it's always them, it's always the same people. So it's interesting that people are sort of connecting that to them possibly being their parents. I'm sure we're gonna find out in the next episodes, but it's such a great layer to an already complex shows.
Yeah, Toastmaster 2000. I saw in Twitter. Toastmaster 2000 might be the MCU's darkest joke. Joe, how about you? What is your take on the commercials in WandaVision?
As an advertising guy, I had to explore history's advertisements, and they're really spot on with how cheesy and kind of terrible they are. But that was the sentiment back in the day. Is like alone the watch reference. It's like a man is nothing without his woman by his side, and the watch is like, that sadly was the sentiment back in the day when it came to advertising and selling these products. And the thing is that what I love about it is I was also, I'm full on that first reference is the bomb. And this is a crazy theory I've been having. Like, I like the theory that these are their parents, but it doesn't make sense if it's the parents if they're still around when Strucker is mentioned.
Yeah.
I think, and this is just the theory. I think that the next episode ad could be either a reference to Ultron or Avengers,
Hmm.
and that by episode 4 or 5, when the Avengers were met as an ad, the man is going to disappear. It's only going to be the woman.
Mm,
And the reason is, I think it represents Wanda and Pietro.
Mm.
interesting.
Because the thing
Yeah.
is like, that's the only reason why they would be around for both. They watched the bomb, the awkward silence of like listening to the countdown, pretty much, and then why like he put on the watch. Like why would the parents be involved with Strucker in that way if it's a visual representation of something? That's just
Yes,
my theory on it.
there's a lot of theories. I've been reading a lot lately. It's yeah, I mean, commercials. But one thing's for sure, guys. The commercial's going to evolve in the next few
Oh
weeks.
yeah.
I think we're gonna have at least, because it's been confirmed that there's 6 episodes of sitcoms, so 6 commercials, and then let's see where it goes.
And please,
And
please let James Spader show up as Vision's father. I just want it so bad.
since they're having kids, because Wanda's pregnant in the last episode, episode 2, and I think, oh, Ultron is a grandfather. Nice. Yeah, okay. Let's now move on to the ending. I'm gonna break it down per episode, guys. So that let's go first to episode 1, because after that blissful married life, like having rings and stuff like that, the camera is slowly going out, and then they're in a TV. Oh my god. And then a sword agent. For those of you who don't know, it's sword. It's other the space branch of Shield. Am I correct?
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's sword, and they're trying to monitor uh the Westview, the altered reality of Westview, and I think that's Darcy who's controlling that the remote or something. I think that's the most plausible theory. Um, theories, guys, theories. I'll go first. My theory is that Sword is aware. Of course, Sword is aware, and then um, they're sending some of the residents, some of the neighbors of Wanda and Vision in that uh, Westview is are Sword agents because we've seen Monica Rambeau there. Some of them
Mm.
are just normal residents. Some of them are Sword agents, and then they're trying to monitor. I can see the screen here. Um, the directors, I mean the cast, the crew that's in the credits, I think are the agents that are assigned in that particular mission. That's my theory, and I think that's about it. They're just trying to tease Sword. Sword is monitoring this altered reality that Wanda somehow created, or something controlled Wanda. I don't know. Charles, how about you? It's really crazy. My head hurts.
Um, it's weird because I've seen the third episode, and the third episode actually sort of unveils what not really fully unveils, but it sort of gives you a better idea on what exactly is going on. But from the last, from the ending of episode two, I'm seeing a lot of people say that the helicopter that Wanda sees in her garden is the because earlier in that episode they hear a crash, they hear
No.
something crashing, and I saw someone say I forgot who it was, but someone brought up that what if that's Monica Rambeau sort of crash landing
Yeah, that was
into
me.
that you that was you okay that was you. What if that's Monica Rambeau crash landing sort of in the world because prior to that she doesn't exist in Westview. What if that's sort of her entrance and she doesn't even know that she crashed? What if her helicopter crashed in whatever site Sword is in? You brought that up, so that's something I'm also super considering with how with what exactly is going on, but without spoiling too much. Um, yeah, Sword is definitely onto something while they're monitoring this crazy sitcom life of Wanda.
Mm.
Yeah, and we're going to episode 2 now. In Randall Park's Jimmy Woo, I think he's the one who's is in the radio, like who's
Yeah,
doing this one.
Ooh,
I
yeah.
think that's him. That's him, right?
I think so as well.
The voice is familiar. And the thing is, the helicopter and the blood are colored, you know. And my theory is that maybe if I haven't seen the third episode, so one and two, maybe maybe Wanda, whenever Wanda is like trying is confronted by, we've seen it in episode one when it's uh, answer the question. In the second episode, Dottie is like trying to ask her, I know something about you and your husband, and then she panics, and then that reality is like crumbling slowly, right? Because whenever someone questions Wanda in that reality, like she is the reality itself is slowly breaking. That's my theory. Joe, how about you?
I think it's the thing is we still don't know quite what the cause is for this connection is why she's in control and not in control to some degree. My kind of belief at the moment is that WandaVision she's created this dimension or whatever it is because it does go back to her time in Sokovia. But the thing is that with him all being sword agents, why is the beekeeper somehow a little he seems independent from the rest? And that's kind of where I start wondering how exactly it all fits together. It's really hard because this is what I really love about the show, and I find it sad that people are kind of writing it off based alone on the sitcom concept. Is that as soon as you start thinking about it, there's so many pieces of a puzzle here that are so uncertain but well placed out. Because alone the dialogue between in the first episode, where the Mr. Hart goes, "Why are you here? Where did you come from?" Like, at first you're like, it's a joke because he wants to know as the boss. But now that I thought about it, maybe it's the real person asking that question. And I think a lot of them, like Dottie or such, are actual citizens of this town, mixed in with sword agents who are all kind of like breaking through at random moments. That she's turning their dialogue into comedy sketches and controlling it to some degree. But the question is, how does Agnes, or if she really is Agatha Harkness, how does it all come together? And there's just so many questions.
Yeah.
And I really want to watch the next episode. And this is the only time where I'll say the weekly release sucks.
I forgot the beekeeper actually when I was breaking this down. See, there's a lot of mysteries already. The beekeeper, I agree, it's like an independent entity, but I think the sword symbol in his back is like, do you
It's a
think
red herring.
Yeah, I don't think he's a sword agent. I think he's something else, someone else, or something else. Creepy.
He just stole it. Like, I still like, the thing for me is the big question is, we see a lot of hexagon symbols as well. Every episode ends on a hexagon.
Yeah.
And besides the obvious, it's a hex kind of thing.
Mhm.
Why is there a beekeeper and a hexagon in this show? Like, if it was just the beekeeper, you can write it off. But the hexagon makes me go, well, is AIM potentially involved? Because there were rumors that AIM is, in fact, in Black Widow to some degree.
Mm.
And it's like, what if, like, AIM is working together with someone and, like, they caused it, or they're helping her control it, and AIM is, like, faking to be a good company now? Because, it kind of disappeared after Iron Man 3. There's so many potential angles you can take with this based on visuals, dialogue, and anything.
And also, Catherine Hans Agnes has been mentioning Ralph all throughout the 2
Oh
episodes.
yeah,
Yeah.
Who that is, right?
Her-
Do you
it's
guys
her
have any
non.
clues who that
It's
is?
like her non-existent husband.
Yeah.
It's like the Fraser joke where we never meet his wife or
Yeah,
girlfriend.
yeah.
And some are saying that it's Mephisto. Some are saying it's the Grim Reaper, because we have a Grim Reaper Easter egg there in the animated opening sequence from episode 2.
Yeah.
There's a lot to break down, and we don't know who exactly the main villain is yet. Some are saying it's Nightmare. Some are saying it's Mephisto. It's gonna be crazy. Some are saying it's the Beekeeper. The main villain's the Beekeeper. Come on, man. What do you think is Sword's role here? I mean, Sword's involvement. Do you think they're helping? I think they're helping Wanda, right?
Like, yeah. I mean, if you've seen the trailer, the shot where sort of Monica gets, pushed out of that whatever thing, that barrier,
Yeah.
and sword is there to like save her, and you see that there's like a sort of barrier in that area. It kind of seems like sword is there to maybe save Wanda. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's weird because sword is, especially here now, because some promo art pretty much confirmed that sword might not be the space branch of shield as we know it in the comics, because they changed in the comics it was sentient world observation response division. Here it says in the MCU sentient weapon uh observation and the response division. So I think they're sort of monitoring living weapons, like enhanced people, and it makes sense if Wanda's being one of those being monitored. Maybe they're trying to, maybe Wanda created something and Sword is there to contain it and save her from it. It could be something like that, but I don't think Sword is super evil here because Jimmy Woo's there, Darcy's there. Darcy, I don't think they're gonna make fucking Darcy like an evil person.
I think that Sword is a byproduct of the Sokovia Accords because of the word sentient, because they're monitoring superpowered beings now.
Yeah, could be.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the actions of Endgame just kind of made it even more relevant.
Yeah. There's so many theories. I mean, there's so many bits, bits to unpack. And it's just 2 episodes, and we can't wait for the next one next week, Friday. 22, and it will slowly unravel because Kevin Feige promised that in one interview that it will slowly unravel. These plot points will slowly be uh, shown in to the audience, and can't wait for it to be able to. Final thoughts, guys. Final thoughts. From 1 to 10, what is your general consensus of WandaVision episode 1 and 2? Charles, you start.
I think it's a 9. Like the 10 is sort of, I don't want to call it a perfect show because it's not exactly, it's not super perfect, but it hits all the things it needs to. And it's such a, I can't help but be amazed that Marvel actually pulled this off.
You're 9 over 10.
Yeah, 9/10. Yeah.
Okay. Before I go to you, Joe, mine is, I think it's a 9.5 because of my excitement level because MCU is back, and I love their unique take. I love that they took a risk, and in Feige we trust. Because I love it. It's both. It's comedic. It's funny. It's hilarious. But it has mysteries. It has secrets. It's all in one, and I can't wait to find out how this will, unravel in the next few weeks. Joe, from 1 to 10, what is your score for WandaVision 1 and 2, episode 1 and 2?
I'm in the 9 camp. I'll say 8.5 to 9. I love the tributes. They replicated the shows amazingly. They know exactly when to use what. The mystery, I think the only drawback, in my opinion, right now is that probably a result of I want to see more of the mystery, and that the episodes are rather short. I do think the show says 30 minutes, but let's be honest, the credits are like 5 minutes long for some reason.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I go, like, I wish they would have kind of not done that. But I think the direction is amazing. I respect the fact that they've done this, and I cannot wait to see them twist and turn more stuff in the future. And I think there's a lot of secrets here that we're not yet seeing that will just really unravel this whole concept in a much bigger way than we expect initially.
Yeah, and just want to give a shout out to the performance of Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany. They nailed it. God, they nailed it as sitcom actors and actors. They're great.
Drunk Vision will always be great.
Vision. Seeing Vision is always great. Can't wait to find out more other sides of their personality in the next few episodes. So WandaVision, great start to the MCU. Great start to the banner year of the Marvel Cinematic Universe here for 2021. WandaVision is only the beginning, guys, because we have a lot of content to break down in the next few months. So that's about wraps it up here for this MCUExchange podcast episode. Happy anniversary, guys. It's been a year. Give it
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary. It's been crazy. We survived 2020. That's an achievement.
Yeah.
Covering news and stuff like that. It's crazy. How about you, listeners? What do you think of the first 2 episodes of WandaVision? You can head over to our Twitter account on twitter.com/MCUExchange, and also comment on our YouTube post about the MCUExchange podcast. That's youtube.com/MCUExchange. And you can also follow me on Twitter. That's twitter.com/AaronChino. That's AaronChino. You can also follow Charles on Twitter.
You can follow me on Twitter at CFS Villanueva.
You can also follow Joe on Twitter.
You can find me at thatabel, THATABERL.
And on that note, stay safe, everyone, and thank you for listening to episode 43 of the MCUExchange podcast. See you next week for another crazy breakdown of WandaVision and covering MCU news. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Till then.